he has let me down. I mean, he's killing many people, and he's losing more people than he's killing. Yeah. I mean, frankly, the Russian soldiers are being killed at a higher rate than the Ukrainian soldiers. But, yeah, he said, let me down. I don't like to see. It's death. You know, it doesn't affect the United States. We have, other than unless you end up in a world war over this thing, you could. This was a thing that would have never happened had I been president. If I were president, it would have never happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. Most people agree it didn't happen, nor was it close to happening. And I spoke to President Putin about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. I've said that many times. It was. But he would have never done what he did, except that he didn't respect the leadership of the United States. They just went through the Afghanistan total disaster for no reason whatsoever. We're going to leave Afghanistan, but we're going to leave it with strength and dignity. And we're going to keep Bagram, the big air base, one of the biggest air bases in the world. We gave it to them for nothing. We're trying to get it back, by the way. Okay, that could be a little breaking news. We're trying to get it back because they need things from us. We want that base back. But one of the reasons we want the base is, as you know, it's an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. So a lot of things are happening, but I am very disappointed in the fact that that one's not settled.
US President Donald Trump issues a final ultimatum to Europe, urging it to stop buying Russian oil. Trump said that Putin had let him down. Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine was discussed even during Trump's state visit to the UK. Why is President Trump so confident that lowering oil prices would force Putin to settle the war, and is Europe ready to do more? US President Trump continues to put pressure on NATO allies and EU to immediately halt their purchase of Russian oil, worrying that continued imports weaken the West's position against Moscow. Trump specifically criticized countries such as Turkey, Hungary, and Slovakia for maintaining their energy ties with Russia, stating these actions greatly weaken the alliance's negotiating power. In addition, Trump urged EU to impose tariffs ranging from 50% to 100% on Chinese goods, targeting Beijing's continued purchases of Russian petroleum. The US would mirror any tariffs implemented by EU to pressure China to cut ties with Russia. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent later clarified that the US would not impose additional tariffs on China unless European nations followed suit. Also, US President Donald Trump, during his recent press conference, told the press that Russia will settle the war if the oil price is lower.
Very simply, if the price of oil comes down, Putin's going to drop out. He's going to have no choice. He's going to drop out of that war. And when I found out that the European nations were buying oil from Russia, and as you know, I'm very close to India. I'm very close to the Prime Minister of India. I spoke to him the other day, wished him a happy birthday. We have a very good relationship. He put out a beautiful statement, too. But I said, I sanctioned them. China is paying a very large tariff right now to the United States. But I'm willing to do other things, but not when the people that I'm fighting for are buying oil from Russia. If the oil price comes down, very simply, Russia will settle. And the oil price is way down. We got it way down. We're drilling and we produce more oil than anybody else in the world. We're doing a lot. But I was disappointed to see that. And the Prime Minister was disappointed to see that. And it wasn't him. It was other countries.
Meanwhile, Wall Street Journal reports that Trump is trying to avoid imposing sanctions on Russia by issuing another ultimatums to Europeans. US President Donald Trump has pushed for tougher actions against Russia. He wants European countries to stop buying Russian oil immediately. He also called on EU to slap heavy tariffs on countries like China and India that keep buying Russian oil. His goal is to isolate Russia economically. But the EU is moving slowly. Instead of rushing new sanctions, they are carefully considering targeted measures aimed at Russian banks, energy sector, and cryptocurrency exchanges, places Russia used to get around current sanctions. EU officials are trying to find a balance between strong action and legal concerns among member countries. A big debate is over about $300 billion in Russian assets frozen in Belgium and other countries. Trump has suggested using that money directly to help fund Ukraine's military defense, urging Europe to act quickly to help Ukraine resist Russian aggression. European officials, however, have been hesitant to take such a step. Brussels is hesitant to use frozen Russian assets to fund the war because of legal worries and concerns about damaging its reputation. Instead, the EU is reportedly thinking about lending this money to Kyiv while keeping sanctions on Russia in place. Under this plan, the EU would take the risk of losing money if Russia doesn't pay it back. This is meant to be deal with legal issues while still helping Ukraine. Even though EU has passed several rounds of sanctions, enforcement has been uneven. Big EU countries like Germany, France, Hungary and Italy still rely on Russian energy, making it hard to stay united against Moscow. And this dependence has slowed down the EU's efforts to tighten sanctions and caused divisions without the European Union. However, some European diplomats say Trump's public calls for tougher action on Russia are partly political. They believe he wants to highlight Europe's hesitations to justify why he didn't push for tougher sanctions. While Trump didn't back broad sanctions on Russia, he did target India by imposing 50% tariff. This was meant to punish India for buying Russian oil, showing Trump prefers targeted economic moves. This ongoing disagreement also shows how hard it is for US-Europe to stay united against Russia. The US wants stronger, broader sanctions to end the war, but Europe tries to balance politics, economic ties and internal divisions. Wall Street Journal points out that these tensions reveal bigger challenges in the US-EU relations, as both sides try to find the right strategy to pressure Russia without breaking their alliance. Also, experts say cutting off Russian oil sales strikes at one of Moscow's biggest source of revenue, limiting its ability to finance military operations in Ukraine. This targeted economic pressure aligns with broader sanctions designed to cripple Russia's economy and reduce its influence worldwide, according to Reuters. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has publicly backed this move, calling for comprehensive sanctions that hit all parts of Russia's economy, energy sector especially. Zelensky emphasized that Russia bears full responsibility for war and urged international community to unite behind stronger sanctions to halt Moscow's aggression. While some Europeans remain hesitant due to their energy dependence on Russian oil, the EU is considering accelerating bans on Russian LNG imports as part of the next sanctions package. This move reflects growing pressure from US and others to reduce reliance on Russian energy and increase economic isolation of Moscow, as Reuters points out. Economists acknowledge that cutting Russian oil imports will cause short-term challenges, including higher energy prices and market adjustments. However, many argue that the long-term benefit of weakening Russia's war capabilities and promoting energy diversification outweighs these costs. The sanctions could also encourage investments in alternative energy sources, strengthening energy security in the future. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump's recent state visit to the UK was marked by a sharp political and economic discussions, including strong stance on the ongoing war in Ukraine. During the visit, Trump openly criticized Putin, saying that Putin let him down over the failure to deliver promises related to peace talks. Trump and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer reaffirmed their commitment to support Ukraine, with Starmer emphasizing the need to maintain pressure on Russia throughout sanctions. On the economic front, Trump pushed for expanding oil drilling in the North Sea, calling wind energy as a very expensive joke and arguing that increased oil production would help lower global energy prices and weaken Russia economically. Additionally, US and UK announced a massive £150 billion bill, Tech Prosperity Deal, aimed at boosting cooperation in the artificial intelligence. Trump also weighed in on domestic UK issues, advising Starmer to deploy British Army to tackle illegal immigration. On trade, Trump expressed support for lifting a 10% US tariff on Scotch whisky, allying with Scottish First Minister John Swinney's calls to improve these transatlantic relations. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and glory to Ukraine.